Let's do a few more exercises with the ratio test. Suppose you have the series -1 to the n times n cubed over n factorial. And tell you what, let's put a 10 to the n on top too. And we want to decide, does this converge or diverge? All right. Well, I'm not going to write out what the a sub n is. It's this thing here. A sub n plus 1, though, is going to be -1 to the n plus 1 times n plus 1 cubed times 10 to the n plus 1 over n plus 1 factorial. So when I do my limit for the ratio test, I'm going to take the limit as n goes to infinity of a sub n first. So now I'm going to leave off the -1 to the n plus 1 because we're taking the absolute value. So we can get rid of that. But I've got n plus 1 cubed times 10 to the n plus 1 divided by n plus 1 factorial. So basically what I've got here is my a sub n plus 1, and I'm going to multiply by 1 over a sub n. So up here, the reciprocal of a sub n is going to come up here. Again, I'll leave off the -1 because we're taking the absolute value. So I've got n cubed here times 10 to the n, and on top, I've got n factorial. All right. Now let's sort this stuff out. The n plus 1 cubed and n cubed I'm going to put together. 10 to the n plus 1 and 10 to the n I'm going to put together. And n factorial and n plus 1 I'm going to put those together. All right. I'm going to do some simplification on these. If you cube out n plus 1, you get n cubed plus 3n squared plus 3n plus 1. But you know what? You don't really need all that, so I'm not going to write it all out. N cubed is the biggest term, so you get n cubed plus some smaller stuff. I'm just going to put ... smaller terms. 10 to the n plus 1, you can factor that into 10 to the n times 10. On the bottom, you've got 10 to the n. And now for the factorial, there's an important thing here. If you have n plus 1 factorial, you can break that up into n plus 1 times n factorial. So after we do all that, we can do a serious bit of cancellation. These cancel, the n factorials cancel, and what I'm left with here is this first bit. This first thing, as n goes to infinity, this goes to 1. This, as n goes to infinity, this goes to 10. And this gives you 1 over n plus 1. So basically, I've got 1 times 10 times 1 over n plus 1. When n goes to infinity, this gives me 0. That's less than 1. Therefore, this series is absolutely convergent. Let's do another example. Actually, before we do that, though, let me just mention this. Pretty much anytime you see a factorial, you're going to want to use the ratio test because this sort of cancellation works really nicely with factorials.